If you would like to have more conversations with more doctors, join the conversations they're already having in their heads. I remember speaking with the editor of a financial publication for physicians, and she said, in every issue, we run an article about theft and fraud. This is what our doctors want to know about. So do you talk with your doctor, clients, and prospects about how they can protect themselves against theft, fraud, and scams? That's what we'll address today. Welcome to the Engaging Doctors podcast. If you're a financial advisor who wants to accelerate your business growth by attracting, engaging, and serving more doctor clients, you are in the right place. I'm Dr. Vicki Rackner, your host. I'm a retired surgeon who has spent the past 15 years helping financial advisors crack the physician code and reach the doctors who want and need their help. In this podcast episode, we'll address 3 questions. First, why are doctors the targets of theft, scams, and fraud? Second, what kinds of scams are there out there? And third, what can you, as an advisor, do to protect your doctor clients from losses from theft, scams, and fraud? Let me kick off this conversation with some personal stories. Last year, I got a letter from the IRS. My heart pounded as I opened the letter. It said, "We received an income tax return, Form 1040, for the tax year using your name and social security number. To protect you from possible identity theft, we need to verify your identity before we process the income tax return, issue a refund, or credit any overpayments." I complied with the IRS's request to call them. No, I told them I had not yet filed my taxes for that year. Well, the good news is that the IRS successfully identified a scammer. The bad news is that I had evidence that somebody out there had stolen my social security number and filed a fraudulent tax return. I found this very upsetting. I even felt some shame. I thought I was careful. I wondered, what did I do wrong? One of my financial advisor clients, Larry, reassured me. He said, even if you do everything right, security breaches of businesses who know your social security number, like hospitals and insurance companies, make you vulnerable. Scammers are 2 steps ahead of honest people. Then Larry said, the question you should be asking is not, what will I do if my social security number is stolen? It should be, what do I do when my social security number is stolen? Given enough time, it will happen to most people. Then, a few months later, I got a call from the Immigration Services asking if I was expecting a package from Mexico. I told him no. He went on to weave a tale about how this package addressed to me was filled with contraband. He laid out the potential criminal consequences for me. Well, this was a credible story. I read an article about somebody who spent time in jail for his suspected role in receiving cocaine-filled packages from Colombia. He was later exonerated. Then the agent asked me if I ever lived in Arizona. I told him that I had not. He said, well, I thought not, but when we went to the Arizona return address on the package, we found stolen credit cards, driver's licenses, and lists of stolen social security numbers. He said, look, you're a doctor. I doubt that you're part of some big crime ring. However, it doesn't look good for you. He reminded me of the potential legal consequences to me of this situation and reassured me that he was reaching out to offer a helping hand. Could I potentially be a person who helped apprehend the scammers? Well, I'm embarrassed to admit that I did not immediately recognize this call as a scam. Intellectually, I know that government agencies don't call. Still, I knew that my stolen social security number was out there. At that moment that the scammer told me about the contraband package, I was no longer in my thinking brain or even my feeling brain. I was in my fight or flight reptile brain. Oh, those scammers were slick. Finally, I took some deep breaths, to re-regulate my nervous system, and reason kicked in. I said, if you are who you say you are, you will understand my need for my lawyer and me to call you back at the phone number published on your website. The scammer got very angry. He said that I was insulting the very people there to fight for him. I simply hung up. Of course, this was a scam. Here's one last personal story. Earlier this year, I applied for a trademark for the True Wealth Way. This is the name assigned to the intellectual property unveiled in my upcoming book and workbook about how doctors can create the lives that they want. So my phone rang, I looked down, and the caller was identified as the USPTO. How exciting to get an update from the United States Patent and Trademark Office. I picked up the call. The caller identified herself as a USTPO verification officer. She said that pending the verification of information on my application, my trademark had been approved. She walked through the items on my application form. She said, well, congratulations, you are welcome to use the TM symbol on your materials. The final approval will take a few months, and then you can use another mark. All I need to do to complete the verification process is to collect the $25 fee, which I can take over the phone. Would you like to use Visa, MasterCard, or American Express? I told her, I don't give out my credit card information over the phone. Could you please direct me to the place on the USTPO site I could go to pay this fee? She said, oh no, we can only take payment over the phone, and it needs to be done in the next 2 days if you want to move forward with the application. I said, I'm sorry, but I'm not going to do that. You could be a scammer. She said, look at your phone. It says the caller is the USTPO. Look at the phone number listed on the USTPO website. I thanked her and hung up. I called the lawyer who filed my trademark application, who said, I'm so glad you checked. The USTPO will never call you. You did the right thing by hanging up. Yet another scam. Fortunately, I did the right thing by simply not disclosing my credit card information. On my cynical days, I think that the right thing to do is never answering my phone again. So let's talk about why physicians are targeted by scammers, what some of the scams are, and how you as a financial advisor can deliver value by protecting your doctor clients from scams. All right, first, why are doctors targeted? Well, the simple answer is that doctors have high value resources. First, they are high earners. According to the U.S. Department of Labor statistics, 10 out of the top 10 earners in the U.S. call themselves doctor. Scammers know that physicians make good money, making them very lucrative targets. Second, doctors have a database of patients' medical history, financial data, and in some cases, especially like plastic surgeons, photographs. All of this data can be held for ransom. A celebrated Beverly Hills plastic surgeon is being sued by his patients who allege that their nude photos were published online after this plastic surgeon was hacked twice and did not pay the demanded ransom. Next, doctors have staff and computers. In just one moment of clicking on the wrong link, doctors are vulnerable to cyber attacks. Next, doctors tend to be trusting. And once they trust somebody, they can dismiss their small, still voice, telling them better. Even Dr. Phil publicly admitted to being scammed by one of his employees. Next, doctors have busy schedule. Long hours mean that doctors may not have time to deeply analyze financial decisions or detect red flags. Next, doctors trust experts. Physicians rely on specialists in their field, and scammers often exploit this by posing as professionals. And last, physicians are exposed to high-risk situations. Physicians own or manage their own practices, deal with payroll, and employ staff, creating lots of opportunity for fraud and embezzlement. All right, let's go on and explore some common scams that target doctors. Well, the first is investment fraud. Even Bernie Madoff had doctor clients. Next, there are impersonation scams. So scammers can pose as agents of the IRS, Medicare, the state medical board, claiming back taxes or licensing issues or fines. Now, it's important for you to remind your doctor clients that most government agencies will not phone. However, there are exceptions, including the Washington State Department of Revenue. Next risk, ransomware attacks and cyber extortion. This might include phishing emails, ransomware attacks, and data breaches. Next, there's financial exploitation by trusted individuals. There are cases when CPAs or family members or employees have engaged in theft. I remember when I was in private practice, we had some turnover, and so we hired a temp from an agency, and this woman was lovely. She would go out to the waiting room and help our elderly patients complete their paperwork. It wasn't until weeks after she left that we got a call from the temp agency saying that they were very sorry, but they just found out that the temp that they sent to our office was a convicted Medicare felon. And this was the person helping our patients complete their paperwork. Next, doctors have a legal duty to protect patient files, and there are consequences for violation of this HIPAA privacy. I remember a physician telling me about a bad situation. One of her employees had taken her laptop with her on vacation. They were doing a clinical study at the office, and so she had patient records on the laptop. The laptop was stolen, which meant that there were unsecured patient records out there. And the fine was going to be up to $250,000 for each breached patient record. Next, there can be medical identity theft that poses really a dual risk. First, there's physician identification theft. So criminals can steal physicians' professional identifiers to bill for services, equipment never provided. This not only leads to financial losses, but also damages the physician's reputation and can result in legal complications. Then there's patient identity theft. It can lead to erroneous medical records, resulting in potential medical errors. Physicians may face challenges in providing accurate care and could be held liable for breaches. Next, there are fraudulent billing practices. Here are some of them. One is phantom billing. Somebody could submit claims for services and procedures that were never performed. There can be upcoding, where the biller will charge for the more expensive service than actually provided. Or there's unbundling, separated services that should be billed together in order to increase reimbursement. Engaging in any of these practices can have severe penalties, including fines and imprisonment and exclusion from federal health programs. Then there are internal threats. There's the risk of fraud from within the medical practice, such as employees misusing access to billing systems to embezzle funds or commit fraud. I remember I hadn't seen a buddy in a long time, and I asked a colleague, "Hey, I haven't seen Diane in a while. Where is she?" And she said, "Oh my goodness, you haven't heard? Her trusted office manager of 13 years embezzled her entire retirement savings, and it's gone. Diane is actually out on a mental health disability now." So, what's the craziest scam you've heard? Please leave a comment below. A new one I'm seeing, for example, is a text from the Department of Transportation telling me that I have fines for unpaid tolls. All right, now let's get to this third section. How can you, as a financial advisor, protect doctors from scams? Your role as a financial advisor isn't just about growing wealth. It's also about protecting it. Doctors worry about theft and fraud and scams. Here are 3 actions you can take to engage more doctors. Number 1, educate your clients that they will be the target of theft, fraud, and scams. Tell stories about other doctors, including the ones that you heard on this podcast episode. Share your own personal stories or real-life cases to illustrate the risks. Second, remind your doctor clients of the steps that they can take to protect themselves. Make sure that they vet investing opportunities and not get involved in some Ponzi scheme or dumb doctor deal. Next, they can purchase the right insurance policies that protect them from cybercrimes and identity theft. Third, encourage them to listen to their small, still voices. If they worry that somebody might not be that trustworthy, use the old trust and verify approach. Next, have doctors remind their family and staff to be very careful with their phone and email habits. If the caller identifies themselves as a government official or a representative of a corporate office, here's a script you can share with him. Thank you for the call. We will call you right back at the number published on your website. Could you please spell your name? And then third, remind your clients of the steps that they can take to protect the people that they love, whether it's an aging parent or their kids or even their patients. Remind them that scammers are 2 steps ahead of honest people. In conclusion, simply remember this. As a financial advisor, you are committed to protecting your clients' assets. That means more than the loss of investment dollars. You can deliver added value by proactively addressing theft, fraud, and scams. Doctors want to talk about this. Please leave a note below if you have tips about how you, as a financial advisor, have protected your doctor clients. I want to thank you for listening. If you found this content to be of value, please subscribe to our podcast and leave a rating or a review. And would you like to learn more about working with doctor clients? Sign up below to access our on-demand training, How and Why to Attract, Engage, and Serve Doctor Clients in 2025. Until our next episode, I'm Dr. Vicki, reminding you that you as a financial advisor bring tremendous value to your clients. It's my honor to support your success.